Average is the enemy of great. Most people settle for average their whole lives. Not you, not in here. This is Winning Standards. Welcome to the Winning Standards podcast. This is the first of the updated podcast. So welcome back to all of the previous followers of my previous podcast, The Underestimated Entrepreneur. Now, the podcasts aren't different. It's just that we've just renamed it, rebranded it, and now we'll keep moving on with this season. You're probably wondering why I've done this. Well, I used to be underestimated, and recently I was working with one of my coaches, and he said, dude, when are you going to change the podcast? You used to be underestimated. You were the underdog. You always had something to prove. You were pushing hard. It's happened since you were a little kid. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I thought, you know what, you're right. Now I have multiple businesses. I get to work with some of the best people in the world. One of the new tech companies that I'm part of that has some of the best engineers from companies like Disney and Time Warner. And so I get to work with these people, and I'm also a shareholder in the company, which is a startup. It's pretty fucking phenomenal. And I get to work with some of the top business leaders all around the country and all around the world. So thinking about it, I thought, you know what, I do need to change this because I've been playing the underdog card most of my life. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode, because there are a lot of business owners that I work with and a lot of people who are extremely hungry, extremely driven, highly ambitious. But like me, they probably struggle to switch off. And I really struggled to switch off because I always had to be on. And I had to be on because being an underdog, it's almost like you're fighting every day. You're fighting for survival. And I didn't realize that I'd wired my brain to survive. I didn't wire my brain to thrive. So even though I'd made millions of dollars in business, I'm living this great life now. Yes, I still work extremely hard. I love working. And I'm still going to do that no matter how much money I have, because this is what I love to do. I love waking up every morning with a purpose and getting in here and helping people. And so I still am going to do that, but I still felt like almost every day was a struggle. We would have a couple of weeks of bad finances and I'm freaking out about money and I'm stressed. I didn't share it with the team, but internally there was this like stress. And then I would stress about my health. I would stress about my nutrition. I would stress about the way that I did things, and I would internalize it. And I didn't realize that a lot of it was coming from being the underdog, the kid who was never picked, the kid who went to swimming classes and wore a t-shirt because he was overweight, the boy who was unattractive to the girls. And there was always this thing of like, I've got to prove myself. I've got to prove my value. I've got to prove my worth. And I didn't realize how damaging it was to my mind. And I didn't realize also how damaging it was to my relationships, to the business as a whole, because I always had to have this pressure. And I would relieve that pressure by pushing others sometimes too hard as well. And so I made a bit of a transition, a bit of a change, which is why we have been, or I stopped doing the podcast for, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year now. And even though I had hundreds of you reach out and say, when's the podcast coming back? When is it? I just needed some time. I needed some time to integrate. I needed some time to think about my standards and how I wanted to live and how I was living and what the next 10 years would look like. So I went back and I got super clear with my mission. I readjusted my purpose. I aligned my values again, all the stuff that I teach, but I just didn't realize that I'd hit my glass ceiling at the next level. And so I spent a lot of time working on myself. I hired a couple of different coaches to help me in the area of health, in the area of mindset, which I'll talk about. But as I started working on myself, all of a sudden these other opportunities opened up, which I'll talk to you about over the coming months. First of all, the partnership with Sustainable Concrete Group and being a shareholder in that company now, and the businesses that we've been acquiring and working with their board and management team and so on, but also being a heavy investor in that company as well. Then also now the tech company, I can't talk too much because I've got an NDA at the moment with that tech company, and I'll be able to talk about some of the things and some of the people that I'm working with in that company, but I can't share too much at the moment because we're building a technology, but that technology is also looking like it's going to be sold to probably one or maybe multiple of the world's biggest companies. So I just have to be careful what I share with that because I am under an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement. But anyway, all of those things happened when I just started getting back into alignment and back into flow, and I removed a lot of the stress and the pressure from myself. But I also came up against some other issues as well. So I realized that I was having multiple digestive issues as well. And so I've got my microbiome tested and everything like that. And now I've got these parasites and shit. So I'm going to talk about this stuff as well, because I put up a post on my social media only a couple of days ago, and it's been one of the top trending posts that I've put up in the last month, because the amount of people who reached out and are saying, hey, I'm getting bloating after I eat. I feel tired all the time. I've got this lethargy, or, is this part of like skin problems as well? I personally don't have skin problems, but the tiredness, I'm in this for probably 20 years. I've had this consistent fatigue on and off. I was told by a doctor that I had chronic fatigue, and I've had a lot of brain fog. And I mean, look, I'm pretty lucky because my mental performance is through the roof. And I've had multiple people say like, shit, based on how you perform every day and the issues that you're having with your digestive system and your stomach, it is unbelievable, right? That the average person would just be fatigued all the time. And so, the mental strength that I have and the resilience has got me through, but it's also hindering me from being able to travel the world and do this at a bigger level. So I'll talk about that as well. But anyway, let's go back to the reason why the name changed from the Underestimated Entrepreneur to Winning Standards. Well, when I realigned everything, I realized that now I am just operating to win with my standards. I'm not competing against anyone. I don't have any competition out there. It's just about me rocking up, being my best every day. And I also started realizing that most business owners fail not because of their competition, but they just fail because they can't keep leveling up and going to the next level and growing and changing and adapting and morphing as the business scales. Now, I've known this. I've spoken a lot about it on my podcast because I've seen it happen to other people, but I didn't realize that it was happening to me as well, that I was still playing the underdog card, and that I had essentially capped my ability to scale because every time things would start going well, I had this unconscious sabotage pattern where I would screw up my health a little bit, or there would be some challenge in my relationship with Jess, or there would be some sort of staffing problem, or we wouldn't have the right staff, or we weren't attracting the right people. And even pushing really, really hard to try to get the right people, we still weren't attracting the right people. Right now in Australia, I don't believe that you can find the right people. I think you attract the right people based on your culture. And all of a sudden, once I changed and I started focusing on my personal winning standards, how I wanted to operate, how I wanted to lead my team, how I wanted to build my culture, the types of people that I wanted to surround myself with. I actually attracted a brand new general manager who came from a $1.12 billion private owned company that had been bought out. Now, I've spoken about this company before because my mentor was the chief operating officer of that company. Now, we put a job ad out. It was pretty blunt. I said exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I teach, a repulsion strategy for hiring staff. So essentially you write a job ad, which is pretty blunt and pretty straight down the line and saying, this is what we want. These are the problems that we need solved. If you're not like this and you don't want to work hard and you're not ambitious and you're not driven, do not apply. And we had some really good candidates, but this one stood out above the rest. And this company the company that he worked for had been acquired by a publicly traded company. And he found that over the last 6 to 12 months of the working in this publicly traded business now that was originally a family-run business, that it had lost its mojo a little bit. And he found that most of the time he was just spending most of his days just doing political bullshit. Things wouldn't move forward. The business was making these bad decisions and he wanted a bigger challenge. So he applied for the job. And anyway, he came through with flying colors. So he's now our general manager. And since he started, he has just been mopping up everything in the company, getting rid of a whole bunch of old staff that were lagging, hiring a bunch of new staff. And so the business is absolutely pumping at the moment. But all of this stuff has happened because of my mindset shift. Now, a lot of people might not believe this, but I have a very strong belief. And by the way, this belief has been around for thousands of years. People have been talking about this, is that the world is a mirror of yourself. That when you think you're not good enough, the world will keep reflecting not good enough onto you. And however you deal with it is however you deal with it. Now, you might not believe that, but I believe that because understanding neuroscience and how our brain is wired and how we perceive things in the world, you can literally put $1 million opportunity in front of most people and they won't take it. And they won't take it because they don't believe that it will work. They don't believe that it's for them. And I really believe that, especially after working with now tens of thousands of people and having maybe 100,000+ people impacted by my work in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the podcast or our events or stuff that I've produced. But yeah, it's just been really interesting that I went through this mindset shift and it started changing everything, that all of a sudden these opportunities started opening up, that this general manager comes in from almost out of nowhere and just goes, look, I'm in. Like, let's roll. And he's pushing me every day to like, let's keep going bigger. And he's pushing the team. Like, we're not messing around anymore. We're not playing small. If you want to be in a small business, you're out. And then these other opportunities opened up, like Sustainable Concrete Group and the tech company have opened up. And now there's another company that I may coach the owner of the company, but it will require a percentage of the company, which will become one of my shareholdings in that company because I want to get paid. If I put in all this effort, if the company grows, I want to get paid well for it. Just like they want to get paid well for it as well. So it makes me more invested and it makes me answer calls at 7 or 8 o'clock at night when the owner's flipping out. So anyway, this podcast, the reason why it changed and why I'm so looking forward to this is because I'm going to start to share a lot of my insights now. A lot of the insights that I've been getting from working with some of the top people in the world at what they do. Some of these big industry moving businesses that I've been working for, some of the insights, some of the frameworks that I've been building out, not only for our events, but also my private clients that I'm working with. So I'm really, really excited about this season. So it's going to be pretty awesome. So anyway, this is the first episode of the Winning Standard podcast, the actual relaunch of it now, instead of it being the Underestimated Entrepreneur. So stay tuned. We are going to have a bunch of episodes every week because I know that most of you listen to the episodes when you're driving to work or you listen to them most days. My team said to me, why don't you just do one episode a week? And I said, that's not the way my community work. If we're going to make an impact, if we're going to make a difference, it's going to be multiple episodes per week so that then everyone who's listening stays inspired, they stay on top of their mindset, they keep pushing themselves harder, and they start setting the standards for their friendship circle, for their business, for the people that they're around. You know, I know that a lot of your parents, and I know that your kids don't just listen to what you say, they watch what you do. Same in business. So I want to make sure that I do this podcast multiple days per week to make sure that you can consistently have this growth mechanism for you to keep growing. So anyway, I'm going to go answer the doorbell, but I look forward to you joining me on the next episode. Please get out there, share this. Let's get this cranked again. I know we would have thousands of people listening to this podcast every week. So let's get it rolling again. Let's get it out there to more people. So please, if you can, remember to like and share this podcast if you haven't already, or you can rate and review this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it on. But let's get this community cranked. I'm here because I want to build one of the most highest performing communities on the planet globally and give all of you guys and girls out there access to each other, whether it's through our events, our seminars, our online stuff, a lot of the free stuff that I'm now going to start putting out to market. I really want to make sure that we have this high performing community because I think that average is average and just way too many people settle for average. And I know most of you that are listening to this know that you're capable of so much more, which is why you're listening. So I want to make sure that I make a massive impact and help you to be the best that you can be as well. So yeah, let's get out there. Let's share this podcast. Let's build this community. And I'll see you on the next episode. Keep kicking ass. Have a great day. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.